What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Check out my other videos. You already know what the deal is. So this topic is going to be a bit controversial because it's probably just going to piss a lot of people off. But I'm here to spit the truth to y'all. All right. Now, let me phrase this right now without a doubt. All right. How long have I served in any of our armed forces or any armed forces? 0. Not even a fucking second. Not at all. I have never served in our military or in any armed forces for any nation, anything like that. So let's clear that out the way. All right. So have I been in a war? No, I have not. Have I been in a warlike situation? No, I have not. However, what I can say is I know a great deal of people who have served. A lot of people in my family have served in our armed forces. I have a good amount of friends who have served as well. Actually, hell, say the 12. Yeah. Yep. Hey, happy early birthday to you, my boy Daniel. Y'all know, you know what the deal is. Come on, happy early birthday. Week away. But, so, let's get into it. Are handguns really good for war or a warlike situation? I'm gonna bring up a couple of points here, give some discussion, and we're gonna get into it. We know some people are really not gonna like this, all right, but it's the truth here. So let me clarify this right now. Not everybody has a sidearm with them, all right. I don't think you guys really knew that, but not everybody who has served has a sidearm or carried a sidearm with them. As a matter of fact, from what I've heard from several people, a majority only carried rifles. A majority of them only carried rifles. Sidearms were specifically issued to, to specific positions because that's what they deemed would be best for their position as a sidearm, not a fucking rifle. All right. So with that being the case, it's not going to be the most common thing you see. Truthfully, it won't. Now, is that to say that it's never been, handguns aren't used in war? No, it's stupid. That's a very untrue statement, obviously. So I'm not going to sit here and even try to lie to you guys about that. However, what I can say is they are not the most commonly used weapon in a war situation or in a warlike situation. All right. That will be your rifle. That's why it's called your primary weapon. All right. There's a reason why your sidearm is your sidearm. All right. It's more than just the reason that, it's on your side. All right. So we're gonna break this down a little bit. What are some pros and cons about handguns that rifles don't really have? And then we're going to, do some pros and cons that rifles have that handguns don't really have. And I'm going to explain to you guys why, handguns generally aren't the most used in war and why people shouldn't. Look, the entire point of why I made this video is because I'm seeing too many people online discussing about what is a perfect war gun. And, every single time I'm hearing people talk about this, I'm thinking, it's a rifle, it's some form of machine gun, something along those lines, a light machine gun, something. And they're sitting there talking about fucking handguns. Somebody claimed the Glock 19X was the perfect war gun. Here's all I'm going to say. I love Glock. All right. The 19X is very neat. All right. It is a neat model. Personally, I prefer the Glock 45 over the 19X. However, that is just me. All right. But in no way, shape, or form is that the perfect war gun. Let's be honest here, guys. I've heard people make just crude and uneducated statements about, oh yeah, well, this would be a great war gun right here. This is a good gun for war, and it's a handgun. Once again, guys, handguns are used in war. They're just not at all commonly used. There's a reason why your rifle is your primary weapon. Now, let's start with the pros and cons of handguns. So one of the biggest pros, of course, as as you guys can see right here on my PSA dagger, it is, nowhere near as big as a rifle. It is nowhere near as big, making it much easier to maneuver, much easier to just have with you all day. You know what I mean? Just the weight difference itself is a big deal. You know what I mean? So those are both extreme pros when it comes to a handgun. All right. Lighter, more maneuverable. Now, with that being said, you do have a good bit of cons that, and understand these aren't cons as a whole for a handgun. However, when compared to a rifle, they are cons. All right. You have the caliber, you have capacity, you have barrel length to worry about, you have ammunition availability. You have a lot of things to worry about with a handgun compared to a rifle. Now, here's what I'm more so getting at, right? Hell, even parts. It's probably going to be harder for you to find some extra parts for your fucking handgun than your rifle. What I'm getting at, obviously, as far as capacity goes, is the fact that even with a 17 round 9mm mag right here, I would much rather have 30 rounds of 5.56, 30 rounds of 7.62 by 39, and a larger capacity with a higher pressured caliber, a more capable caliber, if you will. All right. This isn't to say that, a caliber like 9mm will not do the job in stopping somebody if it needs to. If that was the case, I wouldn't carry it. All right. So I'm not shitting on 9mm. That's not what this is for. All right. This is simply shitting on the fact that handgun calibers, generally speaking, are not that strong. They don't have the stopping power that a lot of people like to, equip them with. And people like to sit here and talk about, oh yeah, my 1911, my stopping power. And bro, you don't have that much stopping power with 45. You have some really an okay stopping power with 10 mil, 357 Magnum, things like that. You have an okay stopping power with, but compared to a rifle, no, not at all. You know what I mean? And that's something that people seem to forget here. People think that you're going to go into war and you're just going to, oh yeah, I got my handgun out. But y'all are not police. Let's get this out of the way. A majority, the people think of war, and I feel like they think of what the standard county, state, city, police, whatever. I feel like they think of what the traditional law enforcement does when they're thinking of something like a warlike situation where that's what they're riding around with is their pistol on their hip entirely. That's probably not going to be it. That's probably not going to be the case. And the fact that you even think that shows you're not being realistic with yourself here. The fact that you even are thinking in your head, oh yeah, well, you know what? I think I'll just do fine with this Glock 19X. It's a great war gun, you know what I mean? We can take any handgun, guys. I'm just using the 19X as an example. Now, I already went over capacity. I went over caliber. I think that, let me see here. Oh, yeah, shit. Finding ammo, all right? Depending on what caliber you're working with, the handgun caliber you're working with might be super common here in the States, but might not be somewhere overseas where you're more likely than not going to participate in a war-like situation. Now, I'm not saying there can't be war in the United States. There has been multiple times, and I'm sure there will be again eventually. However, until then, until we're fighting along the lines here, in America, we're more likely than not going to be overseas if we're in a war. We're going to be somewhere that isn't America, meaning that we're probably not going to have access to ammo as easily as, most people would think. Now, of course, if you're in the armed forces or anything along those lines, they spend a shit ton of money on ammo. That's kind of what they do. However, if you're not, you're kind of shit out of luck there. Same also goes for your parts. You're kind of left in a shit hits the fan survival situation if something like that happens. Now, once again, guys, this isn't to sit here and say that handguns are useless in a war, that they don't get used in war. This isn't to say that at all, because that's not true. They have been used in war. They have been useful in war, but they're not the most useful out of all the products you can get, out of all the guns you can get, the platforms you can get of guns. A handgun is not going to be your best bet for war. It's really not. Now let's go over some of the pros and cons, of a rifle over a handgun as your primary, because that's what you're going to deal with is your primary weapon, which is going to be a rifle. So, pros, as I mentioned before, usually a better capacity, almost always a more capable, better, higher pressured round, or with more stopping power. Now, on top of that, you get a third point of contact, which helps you be more accurate, helps with recoil control, generally speaking. I'll say this right now. We'll take a full-size AK that has, a stock on it compared to a fucking Draco with no stock, no brace, no nothing. Yeah, it's a pretty big difference, guys. You know what I mean? So that third point of contact definitely does help there. On top of that, something that you don't see in handguns that you will see with rifles when you're in a warlike situation is full auto or select fire. All right. One of the big things about rifles that people love, all right, is that they can be, or at least machine guns in this case, is they can be very useful for suppressive fire. If you're in a situation where you need people to stop shooting at you, I can't think of a better way than dropping 30 rounds at them in like 2 seconds. I can't think of a better way. Hell, I can try, but I don't think I'm going to come up with much work here. You know, suppressive fire is a huge plus. It allows you to get to a closer position if you need to. It allows you to get better shots. It allows your combat buddies, all right, the people who are fighting alongside you, to possibly get the right shots on target. It allows for so many things right there. Just suppressive fire itself. While you may use a good bit of ammo, that is the entire point of it. Is you are putting a shit ton of rounds down their way, so that way they're too scared to fire back at that second. You don't really get that with handguns. You're not going to be able to. Let's ignore the fact that, we're talking about a certain speed that can only be, reached with a small little illegal plastic product that I won't mention on here, because why not? Why would I even want to mention it? Even though fuckers in Chicago get to have them shits and they only get like a month in jail for owning one of them. It's not fair. It's not fucking fair. All right. I'm not gonna get into that. All right. I'm not gonna get into that. I have a video actually, about those coming out soon. But you don't get select fire, which doesn't allow you to have suppressive fire either, due to the fact that you're not going to be able to fire that many rounds that far usually, because when you're using suppressive fire, it's not within close quarters, usually at least. That far, one already is going to be a challenge for a handgun, because the longer the barrel, the more accurate it is, the further it can reach out. You're not exactly going to have a 16-inch barreled handgun, guys. All right. So one, there's the lack of accuracy, the lack of capability of the round reaching that far. Next, on top of that, it's speed. As I mentioned before, there's the only way you guys are going to be able to, reach that speed of fire when need be with a handgun is going to be with some accessories, to say the least. All right. And that's the truth here. So now, moving on from the pros, all right, moving on from the pros of the rifle platform compared to the pistol, we will discuss some cons, all right? As I mentioned before, a handgun is a lot easier to maneuver. So much easier, all right? If you have to turn a corner, it's going to be a lot easier and simpler for you to turn a corner, make it tighter enough that you're going to be able to get some good shots in. It's not going to obstruct anything. It's not going to fuck with your movement. That's definitely a pro, but that's where it's a con for the rifles. Is that rifles are larger. There's no doubt about it. Even if you go short to an SBR, it's still definitely going to be larger than a fucking handgun. All right, so there's no other way around that. That's just something you're going to have to deal with. All right, there are pros and cons to everything, as everybody knows. All right, but while being less maneuverable, all right, it also makes it a little easier for someone to, say, grab your shit from you. Let's say you turn a corner and make somebody, somebody's on the other side of that corner, they can grab your shit. It makes it easier. All right, there are cons to this. But besides maneuverability, the only thing that I truthfully see being a big con for a rifle is, and this kind of goes with maneuverability, is your lack of speed. You know what I mean? The heavier the shit you're carrying is, the slower you're going to go, obviously. That's just how it works. All right. Now, while I can sit here and try making a debate about, oh yeah, but if you do this accessory, this barrel length, this type of fucking stock, I'm not going to sit here and say that. All right. Comparatively to a pistol, a rifle is heavier. There's no other way around it, no matter what you do, unless you're sitting there fucking talking about some, oh yeah, well, I had this big fucking Smith & Wesson 500 right here, and it weighs more than my fucking, 5-inch AR barrel. Like, bro, look, when people make arguments like that and they're trying to, they're pulling the heaviest, stupidest guns out their ass to try to prove a point that, oh yeah, well, some handguns are heavier than rifles. You sound fucking stupid. All right. So let's get that out of the way. But, as we can all agree, all right, rifles are going to be heavier than handguns. It makes them less maneuverable. It does allow you, it does take away the allowance of speed, all right? Not to say you can't be fast with one, you 100% can. All it takes is training. However, these are cons that people have to remember. Now, with that being said, what are you more likely than not going to deal with in a war situation is probably going to be a rifle. All right. From what I've heard, there are very few positions that, hey, you're going to be carrying your sidearm. That's what you get. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's some where you get, where you're carrying both. I'm not saying there aren't. I'm just saying that handguns are not the primary weapon of war. That's why they're not called your primary. They're called your sidearm. All right. You know what I mean? That's just the best way to put it. Now, with that being said, some of y'all are probably wondering, well, what is he saying? Is he saying I shouldn't worry about getting a good gun for a war-like situation, a good handgun? That's not what I'm saying at all. All right. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't prioritize your handgun as your weapon of war. You shouldn't. That's just stupid. That's asinine. Or you're going to get smoked by a bunch of people who have rifles and are using legitimate primary weapons. Now, is that to say you should cheap out, get a super shitty, war handgun? Oh, yeah, it's my war handgun, whatever, $200. Fuck no. But I'm also not saying sit here and drop every fucking penny you have so that way you can get what you think is the best gun ever for a war situation and you end up being screwed over because it's a handgun. So get a good gun, get one that, get a good handgun, get one that the parts availability is extremely common, get one that the caliber is extremely common and extremely, not even just extremely common, extremely used in situations where you were stopping somebody or trying to defend yourself. And then that's really it. You know what I mean? Reliable, good capacity, good caliber. That's really all you, common. Those are really the only things you truthfully need. All right. That about wraps it up for this video. If you're focusing on your handgun strictly for, oh yeah, this is a great war gun, and you're not worried about your actual primary, meaning your rifle, you got something wrong. You're not doing it right. All right. That's all I'm gonna say. Y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And because you agree with me, focusing solely on a handgun for war purposes is stupid as hell, considering a handgun, more likely than not, will not be your primary. Y'all make sure to check out all my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.